see by the schedule, we have a safety presentation tonight for Laura at SNH. That will be most of our meeting tonight. And then toward the end, we're just going to run through calendars, some pack information, some long display information for you guys, just to close in a few minutes. But first, we're just going to go through introductions. So my name is Carlton Stripe, if you don't know, and I am your display coach.
My name is Alexis Patino, so I'm another one of the display chairs.
And then we have Kurt, our advisor.
I'm shutting the door. I'm Kurt. I'm home advisor.
So, without further ado, I suppose we can add Laura to the
Everybody's excited, right? Okay, welcome. We're just going to go over a few safety things. Out of curiosity, how many of you guys have done a safety presentation before, done lawn displays? Just a couple of you? Okay. So we're just going to do some basic guidelines for general safety, a few electrical things we need to talk about, some fall protection, excavation, and construction standards. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just general site safety. Housekeeping is going to be the big key thing with you guys. Make sure you're picking up your nails, your sharps, your random wood, your tools are being put away, things like that. Make sure you're using the proper tools for what you need. You're not using a rubber mallet on a giant construction nail, things like that. Just use a little common sense. So make sure you have all the tools you need and everything's going on. Make sure you have any guarding that needs to be addressed. So if you're using table saws, things like that. I don't think many of you guys do, but just make sure all those guards are in place and that everything is in proper working order. Hot work, if you guys are doing any soldering, and I'm hoping that there's no welding going on these displays. However, every year I'm amazed at what you guys come up with. So if there's any welding or soldering, make sure you guys have fire extinguishers nearby. Make sure you're not doing it near any combustible material, anything like that. PPE and clothing, this is another big one. I know people like to walk around in flip-flops, things like that, but please make sure you're wearing at least tennis shoes or some type of closed-toed shoes to avoid splinters, nails in your shoes, things like that. Hard hats, I'm not going to make you wear, but if you have a hard hat, you're working with a lot of things overhead, kind of rope off the area and make sure nothing's going to fall off and hit somebody in the head. So electrical safety is the big issue we get with you guys every year. Every year you guys outdo yourselves and there's more electrical than the year before. So the things we want to emphasize first of all is ground fault circuit interrupters. So make sure you're using GFCIs, outdoors, near water. The big thing with this is that you want to make sure you're protected against the wet grass, the dew, the mist, anything like that. All wiring extension cords must be outdoor rated, so don't just run into the house, grab the nearest extension cord and think you can use it outside. Actually go buy good extension cords, make sure they say for outdoor use. So those will have extra insulation, they'll have extra waterproofing, things like that. Make sure your extension cords and electrical wires aren't in any place where they're going to get pinched. So don't like drive a nail next to your electrical cord to hold it up off the ground or things like that. Make sure you're using some common sense. All your junctions and splices must be covered in electrical boxes, so you need to make sure that they're outdoor rated, and this will be in like a closed box. And I think, Kurt, you're going to have to, there's no cost, there's the cost issue to get the people out there to do that, so please take the time to make sure you're doing your wiring correctly. Make sure you're not using any electrical tape on your extension cords or anything like that. No splices. Basically, don't be doing a bunch of like weird and crazy wiring on your own.
What Laura was getting at is that some of the things, a few things are written into the HAG, and I encourage you all to read, of course, the rules, but the Home Community Activities Guide has that in there. Electrical work like this is not figured into your budget, nor do the rental of mechanical lifts and scaffolding, because we don't want you to shortchange that kind of stuff because you're out of money or you're worried about money. So that's why that's written in there, so you guys can do the right thing and make sure it's done right and not worry if it's, you know, impacting your budget.
And then the other thing, when you get those boxes, when you get your wiring in there, make sure that those openings where the wires go through are sealed up and closed, because you'll get a lot of moisture things in there that'll short circuit your wires. So make sure you're doing things correctly and in compliance with the HAG. Okay, so ladders. The big thing with ladders, you want to make sure they're rated correctly. Make sure, I recommend fiberglass ladders since you guys are going to be using a lot of extension cords, electrical things. You don't want to use aluminum ladders when you're wiring. So make sure you're using fiberglass ladders. Make sure if you're building ladders, I know we end up every year, we have a few people who are, you know, the 8-9 feet up in the air or whatever. Make sure that the rungs of the ladders are 12 inches apart, so 12 inches from one all the way up. So make sure that's being taken care of. 75-degree angle, so if you guys are using extension ladders to get to elevated platforms, put them up against your platform, stand with your toes touching the feet of the ladder, stretch out your arms. That should be about 75 degrees. If you guys are really ambitious and want to do it, there's actually an app you can get for your phone that'll tell you whether or not you have your ladder positioned correctly. I'm not going to make you do that, but and then 3 points of contact. Make sure your ladder has 2 feet on the ground, and then placed correctly on the platform. Secure it if you're going to be going up and down that ladder, getting on and off it frequently. Zip tie it, bungee cord it, do something to make sure the ladder's not sliding down while you're up on the platform, while you're on the ladder, anything to that effect. Side rails, we kind of talked about this stuff. Inspect your ladders before you use them too. I don't know how often you guys use ladders, but if it's been sitting in your garage since last homecoming, you might want to make sure that, you know, it hasn't been damaged, smashed, you know, rotted away, eaten away by some crazy battery acid or something like that. Scaffolding, this is a big one you guys are going to deal with too. So inspect your scaffolding before you take it home. Make sure it's in good shape. You don't want anything that's loose, bent, anything that's going to create a hazard. The big one I'm going to tell you guys is I've seen some very sketchy planks that have been sent home with the scaffolding where the planks have been wet and they're kind of saggy. If you look at the planks and they look really damaged, you're not sure it's going to hold your weight, don't take it. Tell them you want new planks. Make sure that you have something that's going to support your weight, your tools, and everything while you're up there on that scaffolding. Make sure it's plumb and level. I know there's a lot of holes that have been dug in the past in these yards, so there's a lot of uneven surfaces, so make sure that you're properly securing it, boarding underneath, that needs to be done. And then try and avoid anybody working directly underneath the platform or the scaffolding. Again, just to make sure nothing falls off, nobody kicks anything. You don't want anybody hitting the head with a hammer or something to that effect. Guardrails have to be in place. The planks need to be all the way across. Toe boards 3 inches high, so again, that's another one to make sure nothing falls. Fully planked supported up correctly. Just make sure that you're following the instructions. If you guys have additional scaffolding questions, please contact each and ask we can come out and walk you through the process, show you how to do it, anything like that. And then the big thing is nobody over 10 feet in the display, so you guys can put platforms up there, but nobody will be standing 10 feet above the ground while you're doing your displays. Guardrails, so anytime you're doing a platform that's 30 inches off the ground, you need to have some form of guardrail, just basically a board that's 42 inches from the ground. Make sure that it's strong enough to support the weight. We'll be out inspecting these, so we might ask you to put in some crossbars or some type of like reinforcement. So just make sure that if you push on that guardrail, that it's not going to collapse, fall, or anything to that effect. Okay, so then on your platforms, and this is, I believe, in the HAG or the rules. So if you're building a platform and you're going to have people standing on that platform, you can only have 5 people on the platform at a time. If you're going to have 2 platforms next to each other, you need to have 1 foot of separation, and people cannot go from one platform to another. So that gap is basically kind of acting as your barrier. So please take that into consideration when you're doing your designs, that stuff is being accounted for. Okay, so last year we had an issue with the excavations, and I know a lot of you guys are digging, there were actually fairly shallow holes, you know, they were foot deep to put in like wading pools for water features. Anytime you guys do digging, you need to have something to mark it off. So you either need to put like a piece of plywood over it, or you need to put like some posts and mark it around, so that way people who are cutting through your yard don't fall into that hole, they don't trip or do something like that. So please make sure if you're doing any kind of excavation that you're marking it appropriately when you're done with your work at the end of the day. And then they can only be 3 feet deep as long as they're not occupied. As of now, does anybody plan on like digging a hole and putting somebody for a part of their skid? Is that? I know you guys probably think this is crazy, but this stuff was done in order for it to be the rules, so you know, take into consideration refrigeration that topic. Okay. So materials, you can reuse materials, but please assess the condition, make sure they're in good condition. I know that materials get pretty expensive, so if you have plywood and things from last year, go ahead and use it. I believe it's 1/2-inch plywood for platform, and we actually are okay if you have like 1/4-inch plywood. If you want to overlap 2 pieces of 1/4-inch plywood to get the 1/2-inch, that's fine. So please feel free to use materials, but please make sure they're structurally sound and that they're going to sustain the purpose that you need them for. And then fasteners, so when you get into your structures, make sure that you're using nails and fasteners that aren't rusted, aren't going to snap or break under the weight of the materials and the people who are on that platform, that structure. Okay, so section 5 of the HAG, so we have guardrails, which we discussed, so the 30 inches. Guardrails need to be the 42-inch high. Joisting, 24 inches or less, so you need to have joists 24 inches. If it's going to be an unoccupied structure, 16 inches if you're going to put people on that. So that means every 16 inches there needs to be a cross beam underneath that 1/2-inch plywood. Does everybody understand? Does that make sense? Okay. And then steps. So the tread depth, you want 10 inches, rider height 6 inches, and this is somewhat dependent upon the height of the steps. So please just walk up the steps, see, make sure they're structurally sound. You don't want anything that's too steep that people are going to have an issue going up and down. You don't need them so wide that they take up a huge section of your yard or anything like that. So please use some common sense when it comes to building the steps. Okay, and then also we at EH&S will be going out, we'll be doing some inspections twice. I think we have 2 that we usually schedule with you guys. When we'll go out, we'll check your projects, we'll address any safety concerns that you guys have or that we have in the process of building your display. If at any point in time you guys don't know or just have a question, just get a hold of EH&S. We're paid to go out there and do this stuff, help you guys with these things. So feel free to get a hold of us at any point in time. We'll come out and check things out and give you some advice and help you guys out. Is there any questions or anything? This needs to be updated, but my contact information is there. Again, I'm Laura Kim. I'm on the EH&S website. So again, like I said, if you guys have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me. Okay, nothing. You guys all got it good? No problems this year? Famous last words, right? Have fun at homecoming.
Thanks, Laura. I wanted to run over one quick thing with this slide. This is the height thing, and I think we're in the 3rd year of the height limitations requirements. So this is really important. First of all, it says in the HAG, call one call, do it now, do it right away. I will call the city and check to make sure you all did, because you can do that sort of thing. So you really need to do it. It's very important. So we will check. This is kind of pole heights. If you're going to put poles in your yard, this is the deal with the 4.5-foot pole depths to make sure that it's structurally going to hold up and stand up and all that kind of stuff. 10 foot is the limit for construction on the display, right? So Laura mentioned that you can't be higher than 10 feet in the display when you're building it and when you're performing. So if you're building something less than 10 feet off the ground, you can be on it, in it, up against a ladder, that kind of thing. Anything above 10 feet, you need to use scaffolding or lift. You're not going to be on the structure you build that's above 10 feet. So you can't do a ladder like a platform and then another platform be in there, on there. No, you have to stand on scaffolding and lifts, and that's why that's not in your budget in case you want to do that. The limit is 20 feet. That's a hard limit. The only exception is that one thing per each of your displays can maybe go 5 feet higher, and that's the special thing. And you have to write that into your patent and specially request that, and we can turn you down. But nothing above 20 feet can be structural. So we're talking about like a little top of a campanile made out of blue board that's sitting up there, or something like that, something with canvas or whatever. But that is a one thing per display. You need to have permission for that, and you have to write it into your patent. And the lawn display co-chairs and Laura will approve that if we want to. So everything is 20 feet. Now, this is all from grade. So some of you have a big hill in your front yard, some of you don't. it's from where the grass starts. So that's good. It's from grade, it's from the bottom of the ground, and it's 10 feet and 20 feet, and then 25 feet above that. So it's easy for you to remember all that stuff. So I wanted to cover this real quick. Cool. All right, these guys have some.
Okay, so we just want to go over a few like logistical things with you guys. The first one is the calendar of events. The first thing you'll notice up there, all the patents are due to us tomorrow. So I hope you guys all have those done or pretty close to done, or else you're kind of in trouble. Yeah, really though. But then also we have September 3rd. You can come pick up your patents. We'll review them all and let you know if you need to redo anything on your patent. If you need to redo stuff, resubmission is on the 4th. So you have like a day to figure it out. We usually don't have too many problems with that though. Then September 5th, the first budget receipts are due. And then after that, September 6th, construction begins, yay. And then after that, like every week, we're gonna be having you guys drop off your budget and receipts and whatnot so that we can make sure you guys are staying online for that. And then September 26th, scripts are due. October 3rd, the 5th budgets and receipts. October 6th, the presentation times will release to you guys, and then basically lawn display is happening on October 10th, and that's when you guys will give us your final budgets and your final receipts and whatnot. So patent instructions, like I said, those are due tomorrow at 6 p.m. You can either email them to us, or you can go straight up here, displays.homecoming@gmail.com, or turn them into the SALC office. We're down on the first floor of the Alumni Center. Carlton and I both have office hours tomorrow morning from 10 to noon. So feel free to stop in with questions, or if you want to drop off a hard copy, you can come in then or whenever. Again, check the HAG. We emailed that to all of you guys, so you should all have it. That has more patent information. And as far as what we want with patents, detailed drawings of all the buildings and structures, the layout of your lawn display, special detail on like moving or like special structures. Make sure those are all included and outlined in there. And then turn in your theme ideas with your patents so we can make sure there's no overlapping themes or anything. And then patent order, straight up here. Number 1 is gamma phi beta, kappa kappa gamma, kappa delta, alpha delta pi, and chi omega. So again, we'll be reviewing patents and then this is the order.
So participation waivers, those should have gone out to your emails on Sunday night for at least all the co-chairs, homecoming and display co-chairs. We apologize, we do not have any printed out at the moment. If you guys have any issues or need help printing any of those for your chapters, let us know. We can work with you to get those. Otherwise, those are also online on the homecoming website. If you guys have not seen that already, you should have gotten an email about the homecoming website that has all your hags for yellow cow displays, community service, what you guys have to do community service, but all different things homecoming related. So they are on there as well. All members participating in lawn display anyway, whether they're in the skit, just going to come over and paint, working structure, electrical, anything, need to fill out one of these participant waivers. It would be wise to just have everyone in your chapter fill one of these out, just for safety reasons. They are due by September 5th with your fees, which is the day before groundbreaking, so we can have all of that packed away before you guys start doing anything with lawn display. You can turn them in really whenever. If you have all of them done before and want to bring it to the SALC office, that is, you can by far do that as well. Yeah, if you have them now, we can take them to the meeting, but if you don't, that's fine. So just going to some lawn display stuff. We kind of talked about this when we had our lawn display meeting in the spring last year. The total budget for lawn display this year will be $3,500, which is about $400 from last year. If you guys have any questions about what needs to be included in the budget, what isn't included in the budget, please let us know as you start putting your budget together, which is due, the first budget is due September 5th, right before groundbreaking. So if you have any questions about that, let us know. Also a change from this year is donated any reused materials, kind of like Laura had said, if you had any plywood or wood or any materials that you would like to use from existing lawn displays or your chapter might have, those are 50% market value in the budget instead of 1/3 as it has been in the past. So those are worth worth more on your budget than they have in the past years. Skits will be a maximum of 10 minutes instead of 7.5 minutes. So you have 10 minutes to complete your skit, and all skits will be performed in 25-minute intervals. So you will have 10 minutes to perform your skit, and then basically, if you go the full maximum 10 minutes, you will have 15 minutes to reset your skit for your next performance. Does that make sense to everybody? So you have 10 minutes maximum, and then you have a 25-minute interval to reset and have a break if you're performing, things like that. The wood cannot represent the wood rule for anyone who's participated along this way in the past is now an object cannot represent an object rule. We have had questions about objects on people's costumes, and anything that is part of a costume that is not used to serve a purpose or an action in your skit is fine. An example is if you were having Indiana Jones and maybe had a whip. If you kept it on your costume the entire time and did not use it in any way, that is fine. If you were to take out the whip and try to whip something or use it for a dramatic effect, then you would have to make something that is not an actual whip. So if you wanted to make a table as well, you can't take out your chapter or dining table and use that as a table. You would have to make that out of wood. But if you wanted to make a wood structure, you wouldn't have to make wood, put a blue board on it, and then paint it like you would in the past. So you can actually use wood as wood. Just an object cannot represent an object. And if you have any questions about that, just shoot us an email as we progress. We will try to help you.
And we know that that gets really complicated. That's always been in the HAG just because we want you to make things. That's always been part of lawn display. The only exception was grass in your front yard and then water. So it used to be you had to cover your whole lawn no matter what. I know a lot of you do anyway, but like we got away from that because there was like things blowing around the neighborhood really bad. So that was in there. They covered the time change. Just want to make sure everybody understands this. So Excitement Streets is changing a little bit. So last year and previous years for a very long time, you would have had 40 minutes to reset and you would have gone 3 times over the night. So we want to change that and make it quicker, make it easier for people to watch your display and find your display so they know every 25 minutes they can watch any display they want to. So all of you will go every time and it will be all 5 at the same time every time. So anybody who walks out of Excitement Streets, they pull their little map and say, at 8 o'clock, they all go. At 8:25, they all go. So they don't need to go to Fidel and be like, oh, they're not going. They go at 8:40, so then I go down to Anchors and watch them and then come back. And everybody can watch all the skits. Now also, you've probably heard about Campus Decks. These two have been working very hard. The community service pairings, 5 of the 7 are going to do a small mini display. We're calling Campus Decks, like a glorified banner with a skit. So you've probably heard about it. So they're also going every 25 minutes, and they're going opposite lawn displays. So then somebody can watch your skit, go 5 minutes, go down to somebody who's doing one, Signify who's doing one, and then watch theirs, and then come back and watch Keats 5 minutes later, so they can watch all those skits at the same time. So we're going to have 10 displays going on in Reclaim, which is cool, rather than just your 5 lawn displays, but they will be going opposite you guys. But to keep it all on the same path, it'll be really obvious for people who come to know when things are going. But that means you have to reset 15 minutes and do your thing 5 times. So we hope it's going to be good, it'll be a good change. So we want to let you know why we're doing it. Get excited.
And then just the last thing, just for anyone who's new along display, this is just an example budget that we have pulled and made up. As you can, it's kind of hard to read, but on the left, there's number 2 going down, so this will be your second budget. And next to it is PM, so that's actually purchased material. That's stuff that someone had gone out and bought. The item, the quantity, and their unit price, just kind of cost in there. The 2 highlighted, the bottom section is budget 3. So what, you know, the 2 are the same item, they're 2x4s. 16-foot long 2x4s, and then budget 3, they were reused materials. So as you can see, they are 1/2 the unit price per material. So that's just an example of kind of what the unit price does for donated and reused materials. Also, there is recycling down there for all recycled materials. That is described in the HAG as cardboard, milk jugs, anything that you would throw out. Those do not have a value, so you can just kind of put a hash between those. But if you guys have any questions about budgets moving forward, you can always ask us. We just wanted to kind of show you what we're looking for in the budget and things like that. So. Any questions about anything?
And while you ponder that, the one thing I always want to say to you, the same thing I said to all the people last night, is like, thank you for doing homecoming, thank you for participating in lawn display. We love lawn display, everything about lawn display. I think the homecoming game and lawn display are the only 2 things that have gone on for 102 years, so it's very important that we preserve this tradition, which is kind of why we're bringing Campus Decks into the mix. That doesn't affect you guys right now, so But thank you for doing Lawn Display, thank you for all the work it puts in, all the safety stuff we go through. You know, this is a huge process. The Lawn Display coaches are working on this, EH&S, University Council, City of Ames, Facilities Planning and Management, all of them have had a hand in the safety process, and so that's why the rule book for Lawn Display is so awesome and amazing. But we do all this to preserve the event, preserve the tradition, and the tradition doesn't exist without all of you. So thank you for doing that. We know it's a lot of work, but it's really awesome, and we hope people really appreciate it. So we're always trying to make it better, and we know we can't do it without you. So thank you for doing it.
So, saw that the electrical safety doesn't count as the budget. Does that mean if we hire a professional electrician, we're going to have to include them in the budget? But like safety features like electric boxes and covers for everything, that would be included?
That's a good question. I have to read the HAG, that section for sure to know. What these things came out of, like the scaffolding and lifts, is that the safety committee saw this years ago and said, oh, they're going to skimp on these things because it's going to fit into their budget, so we just don't want you to say, oh, we're going to do this awesome thing, but now we're going to make it crappy because we have to pay for scaffolding, kind of a thing. And so I'll have to look at that, and these two can look at that too to see exactly what it says. We just don't want you to say, well, we're going to do a crappy job wiring and try to hide it because we have to spend our money on massive amounts of billboard. I mean, we want you to do everything right, and we don't want those things to count against you